Hello YouTubers, Herman Williams with ATM Financial Services. Today's Money Smarts lesson is part 2 on how to repair your credit. Now today we're going to talk about how to deal with collections, charge-offs, and inaccuracies on your credit report. Now since I already know how much everyone loves dealing with collection agencies and how much fun those calls can be, why don't we start with that first? Okay, nobody likes dealing with collection agencies, and those calls are never fun. But when you know your rights and when you take control of the situation, it can be a lot less intimidating, and it can actually put a smile on your face when you handle it correctly and it has a positive outcome. The first thing that you need to know about collections is what is the statute of limitations in your state for the type of debt that you have. The statute of limitations can vary from 3 to 15 years depending on the type of debt and the state in which you live. Now this is important because it could help determine how you deal with these collection agencies. I have included a link below that shows the statute of limitations for different types of debt for all 50 states, so check that out when you get a chance. The second thing you need to know about collections is how collection agencies make their money. Most collection agencies operate in either one of two ways. They either buy delinquent debt for pennies on the dollar through a bidding process, or they act as a middleman between you and the original creditor. Now, if they have bought the debt, then the original creditor is out of the picture, sort of, and everything that they collect is theirs to keep. You should know that on average, these companies pay around 4 cents for every dollar of delinquent debt that they purchase. These purchased debts are usually sold in bundles, so the original creditor is happy to get some money on a debt that they've already decided is uncollectible by them. So if a collection agency purchased your $1,000 debt, chances are they only paid about $40 for it. They have the potential to make huge profits if they can convince you to pay the full amount. This helps explain why some of them use ruthless, intimidating, and sometimes unethical or illegal practices to get you to pay. But now that you know this information, you can flip the script and use this information to your advantage. More on that in a moment. Now, if the collection agency is acting as a middleman for the original creditor, then they get paid a percentage of the amount that they collect and turn over to the creditor. Their pay is usually 25 to 50% of the amount they collect. The key takeaway here is that regardless of which method the agency is using, the amount that you pay can often be negotiated. I need to make clear a very important point here. If you have a debt that is being reported as a collection, but the statute of limitation has expired, do not, I repeat, do not admit to the debt or discuss any settlement without getting legal advice first. By taking even a small step on a time-barred debt, you can void the statute of limitations and restart the clock. Just to be clear, when the statute of limitation has expired on a debt, it does not mean that the debt collectors will stop calling, and it doesn't mean that it will fall off your credit report. It simply means that the original creditor or the debt collector cannot take legal action or sue you to be allowed to garnish your wages or attach assets to collect the debt. Collections and charge-offs can still remain on your credit report for 7 years, even if the statute of limitation was only 3 years. So how do you use this information to your advantage? Well, even though collection agencies want to make as much profit as they can, you need to remember that they weren't the original creditor, and they will make some profit on almost anything they collect. The other thing that can work to your advantage is that the closer the debt is to the statute of limitations, the more likely they are to take a smaller settlement. They really don't want to sue you for the debt because that cuts into their profit margin. If they have to go to court and win a judgment, then they have to take the judgment to your employer and get them to set up a garnishment, and it's just too much trouble. They would rather have the quick cash with less administrative headaches. So, Armed with this information, you can take an offensive position instead of a defensive one. First, gather your information from your credit report and write down each reported collection balance, the account number, the date that it was reported as a collection, and the name and phone number of the collection agency. Your credit report will usually also show the month and year when the collection is due to fall off your report. Start with the oldest debt, but if that debt is going to fall off your report in less than a year, you may want to pick another one. Once you have your information together, pour yourself a glass of liquid courage and grab your phone. I'm just kidding about the liquid courage part. Don't do that. You may want to rehearse what you're going to say, though, and don't be intimidated. Remember, you are in control now. Speak calmly and in a non-threatening tone. Call a collection agency and tell them that you are calling in reference to a collection item on your credit report, and let them know that before you can take any action, you need written verification that the debt is indeed yours and proof that the balance you see is correct. If it is a medical debt, also ask for the date of service and what service was provided. If they are uncooperative, simply let them know that you are not going to pay 1 penny on a debt that you cannot verify and hang up. I can almost guarantee you they will call you back. If they cooperate and provide verification, then let the negotiations begin. Remember, the older the debt and the closer it is to the statute of limitation, the more bargaining power you have. Maybe start with 20 to 25% of the original balance. If they bought that debt, that is still a huge profit for them, and if they are working as a middleman, they are still getting a percentage of whatever they collect. Understand where you have leverage and use it to your advantage. When you are negotiating your settlement, make sure you state that your payment is contingent upon them removing the collection from your credit report upon receipt of payment. Also make sure that you get this agreement in writing. It can be in the form of an email, but get it in writing or no deal. If a deal is reached, be prepared to pay. They are going to want their money ASAP. You can send them a letter or email stating that you will submit payment within 2 weeks of receiving their signed agreement. Make sure you keep copies of everything and write down the dates, times, and names of anyone you speak with. The first time you do this, it may be a little scary, but you may get lucky and get someone who is very accommodating on your first try. Not all collection agents are bad people. Some are just people trying to do their job and support their families just like you and I. So don't be afraid. You can always hang up and go back to dodging their phone calls. But why not take an aggressive approach and get them off your back once and for all and improve your credit score in the process? When you get your first win, you will feel so empowered. If you are dealing with a charge-off, the process is basically the same, except you are dealing with the original creditor. They've already written off the debt, so they may be willing to accept a partial payment as well. Your terms should be the same though. Payment in exchange for removal from your credit report. If you have already paid the charge-off, but it is still on your credit report, you can write the company a letter asking for what is known as a goodwill deletion from your credit report. If you do this, don't just use a goodwill letter you found on the internet. Write an actual letter in your own words explaining the situation that led to your non-payment and the steps you are taking to redeem yourself. You will have a much better chance of getting what you want than if you just use a form letter. It's okay to look at some examples just to get an idea, but make it genuine. The last thing that I want to talk about today is clearing up inaccuracies on your credit report. Now, when I say inaccuracies, I'm talking about things like an account that doesn't belong to you or a large difference in the actual balance on an account. Now keep in mind that there will be a time lag from the time you make a payment and when the new balance shows up on your credit report. I'm more referring to things like a credit card that shows a balance of $1,000 when it should be $100. Also look for any late payments that you know were not late. If you find any inaccuracies on your credit report, you should follow the dispute process that is outlined at the end of your credit report. Basically, you need to be able to provide any documents supporting your claim, such as bank statements or credit card statements, and the credit bureau is required to investigate your claim in a timely manner, usually 30 to 45 days. There are people out there who will claim that they can get things removed from your credit report for a fee, of course, and a lot of them are using the Section 609 rule of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. This rule basically says that if an item cannot be verified as accurate within the allotted time frame, then it has to be removed from your credit report. What they are not telling you, though, is that a creditor can still verify the accuracy of an item after the time has expired, and the item can be added back to your credit report. If this happens, don't expect to get your money back that you paid to have it removed. Also, having something removed from your credit report doesn't necessarily relieve you of the debt obligation. Your rights as a consumer are actually better spelled out in Section 611 and 623 of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. The bottom line is, if the debt is truly yours and if it is accurate, you are usually better off dealing with it in one of the manners I've described rather than paying someone to try to game the system. Know your rights, work to correct any items that are truly wrong, and don't be afraid to tackle collection agencies head on. If you will commit to these behaviors, I can guarantee you will have success at repairing your credit without paying anyone to do it for you or possibly getting scammed. If you haven't watched part 1 of repairing your credit, please do so. Also, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel and give it a thumbs up if you like these videos. You can also leave a comment or suggestion for future videos. Thanks for watching, and until next time, behave well.